Discoveries made in this volcanic landscape have transformed the way we think about the natural world forever.
The extraordinary creatures of Galapagos astounded Charles Darwin when he first came here 200 years ago. They led him to formulate his revelatory theory of evolution by natural selection. And now, 200 years later, there are still mysteries to be solved and new discoveries to be made. Teams of scientists are investigating unexplored regions of the remoter islands and discovering hitherto unknown animals. On the peaks of its volcanoes, inside networks of immense tunnels within the lava flows, and in its crystal clear waters. New technologies are enabling scientists to investigate the workings of evolution in new ways and producing insights that would have astonished Darwin himself.
On September the 16th, 1835, HMS Beagle arrived in the Galapagos Islands. And the 26-year-old Charles Darwin stepped ashore to explore.
At the time, very little was known about the natural history of the islands. Darwin, initially, was fascinated by its geology. But it was the animals that gave him his historic insight.
Darwin was only on these islands for 5 weeks. But in that short time, there were things he saw and conversations he had which stuck in his mind. For example, the British Vice-Governor of Floriana Island said that he could tell which island the giant tortoise came from simply by the shape of its shell.
He pondered on the Vice-Governor's casual remark. Why were populations of tortoises on separate islands all slightly different from one another? He set about making a collection of animals and plants from all the islands he visited.
Although it was the tortoises that first alerted Darwin to the differences between animals on different islands, it was his collection of these undramatic little birds, the finches, which provided him with the most substantial evidence for his great theory.
We now know that the ancestral Galapagos finches arrived in these islands about 2 million years ago. Since then, they have diversified into a number of different species. Darwin, when he returned to England, brought back with him a wide variety of specimens of all kinds. And he spent years studying his collections. He had a range of finches from several of the islands, and he noticed one particular way in which they differed. They had beaks of different sizes. An idea grew in his mind. It would also apply to tortoises, maybe to all animals and plants wherever they occurred. Painstakingly, meticulously, he started to accumulate evidence from all over the world to support his idea. And he called the process that produced new species evolution by natural selection. And nowhere is its workings more vividly evident than here where it first occurred to him, in the Galapagos. He realized why it was that there were several species of giant tortoises.
That original species probably had a high domed shell, like this one. And that's very useful on well-watered islands like this, where you have to barge your way through the vegetation. But on other islands, there are other problems.
In the southeast corner of the archipelago lies Hispaniola Island. Here, there is virtually no edible vegetation at all. except, that is, for this prickly pear cactus, Opuntia. But this species of Opuntia is very tall, and it has a tough, woody trunk. The only parts worth eating are the fleshy leaves and flowers at the top. Any giant tortoise that could reach them could get a meal. Tortoises with low round fronts to their shells couldn't do that. But those with a peak at the front of the shell and long necks could just manage it. So they were the ones that survived and produced young. Over many thousands of generations and millions of years, the shell shape of the Espanola tortoise became more and more exaggerated. Now, the peak at the front of the shell is shaped like a saddle. Such a change didn't happen just on Espanola. Different islands had their own versions. Eventually, there were 15 different species in the islands, all descended from a single founder. Today, there are some 15,000 tortoises on the Galapagos, and they're an essential element in the island's ecosystem. They create special conditions that suit all kinds of other animals. They shape and prune the landscape. They disperse seeds, travel down the undergrowth, and trim the lowest branches of the bushes. And all that allows seeds to germinate. It disturbs insects so that they can be gathered by hungry predators. Their dung is also crucial to the survival of many other creatures. Beetles lay their eggs in it, and their larvae grow fat on the nutriment that it still contains.
Tortoises are definitely the megafauna of the islands. They're like the elephants of Galapagos. They're out there in large numbers, they've got big bodies, they're creating myriad micro-habitats for other species. They truly are gardeners of Galapagos. That's probably the best way to sum up their ecological role.
The implications are very important. They suggest that the reintroduction of tortoises to islands where their numbers have been seriously reduced could restore the richness of the whole environment. We have the chance to bring back the full glory of these fragile ecosystems.